This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for July 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Humpday to everyone out there. It's 4th of July week. A lot of people are off work today. And if you are working today, you're probably working today, off tomorrow. Enjoy, be safe, don't be an idiot. Before we get into today's episode, a few programming notes. First, we're going to be way out of order today. You'll see why in a minute. But tomorrow might be a little bit later. You're probably noticing today we're a little bit later. I'm off of work if I don't have to get up super early. I'm not. Also, Friday, on the 4th of July, we will have a show. There will not be a tournament matchup that day, partly because of the holiday, partly because it helps me to space it out so it ends in June. But as always, be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok on Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word. If you want to see highlights, they're on my social media, including Facebook and LinkedIn. And then, of course, the Discord channel is live. We've slowly been growing that. Lots of great Philly sports talk things happening. So come over. First link in the description, and let's talk some Philly sports. All right, no Phillies game last night. Rained out. They will play 2 today against the Padres. One at 1 o'clock, originally scheduled the business person special or the old business person special. And then again tonight at like 6:30ish. McGable starting game 1. Christopher Sanchez will start game 2. And here's where we're going to veer off from our regularly sort of rundown and play or flow, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to start, and we'll come back to this, but we're going to start with July 2nd here. And the reason I'm starting with July 2nd is the Phillies Padres are playing 2 this afternoon and tonight down at Citizens Bank Park. On this day back in 1993, the two teams did the same thing at the Vet. They were scheduled to play a doubleheader on this day, part of a makeup from April 21st. First game started off no problem, 4:44 p.m., but Mother Nature had other ideas as there were 3 separate rain delays totaling 5 hours and 54 minutes. First game did not end until 1:03 in the morning. Lots of questions about whether or not they were going to do game 2. Umpires were like, yo, there is not a rule in the rule book that says we can't start this. We were told we're playing 2 today. San Diego, this is the last time you're in Philly. Let's get this game in. They started game 2 at 1:25 a.m. Pete Incaviglia was already starting to change in the locker room, was told, hey, you need to go back out and start in left field. Put his uniform back on, went out. Phillies did lose game 1, 5-2, and we're down 5-1 after 4 innings as Jose De Leon started for the Phils that day. But the Phillies battled back, and as fate would have it, they sent the game into extra innings. Mitch Williams pitched a scoreless 9th and a scoreless 10th for the Phillies. His turn came up in the 10th inning to bat. Phillies had nobody really to hit for him, so making his first at-bat of the season, Mitch Williams singled in Pete Incaviglia in the bottom of the 10th to win the game, ending at 4:41 a.m. As Harry Kalas said, Mitchie Poo won the game for the Phillies 6-5 in one of the more bizarre doubleheaders in Major League Baseball history, one of the more bizarre games, more bizarre days in Phillies history, and one of the just great highlights and great stories, great moments from that 93 team with the Phillies. I remember, I'm pretty sure this game was on Prism. We did not have Prism at the time. So we weren't where we lived. It just wasn't available. So I remember listening to this game on the radio, thinking, will they play the second game? What is happening? Trying to stay awake. But what a great memory on this day back in 1993, Phillies. And this really started to catapult them. They were in a little bit of a free fall heading into this game. Their lead had dropped down to 5.5 games over the Cardinals. They had lost like 6 of 7 or something crazy like that. But it really got them back on the right track as they came down the stretch. But on this day in 1993, Phillies split a doubleheader with the Padres. Game one didn't end till 1:03 a.m. due to almost 6 hours of rain delays. And then game two started at 1:25, ending at 4:41 when Mitchie Poo singled in Pete Incaviglia for the win. Now, we'll come back to the rest of July 2nd, but I figured since the Phillies and Padres are playing a doubleheader today, why not just tie it all together? But like I said, one of the more bizarre moments, days during that 93. And there was a ton of bizarre and weird days during that season. All right. Flyers opened up free agency yesterday. Were very active. Picked up a couple defensemen, a center, and a goalie. Dan Vladar is the goalie. Kristen Dvorak is the center. Noah Juleson is one of the defensemen. Now, Dvorak and Juleson actually both played for Rick Tocchet. And I like this because Rick Tocchet's trying to get a whole new system in there. Bring guys that know your system, kind of help these guys transition and implement, and as Nick Sirianni would say, build strong roots, a strong foundation for your system. He also signed defenseman Dennis Gilbert. Now, a lot of people were mixed on some of these moves, but I like them in the sense that the guys you just drafted, a lot of your young guys aren't going to be ready to start the season. They might be called up later in the season. It might not be till next year. So you have some NHL experienced guys, especially guys that know Rick Tocchet's system in there to help ease and make this transition smoother. The other thing about these deals is they're only 1 or 2 year deals. So they're not going to be hamstrung with long term, which during the Fletcher era, that's what the Flyers had. They had all these terrible contracts that Danny Briere and Keith Jones sort of had to dig the team out of. So the fact that they're being cap responsible and physically responsible with these moves, it's the trend. Like I love everything they're doing, and I've been since they hired him. I said Danny Briere knows his shit. The fact that he went to Wharton, the fact that he worked as a scout, the fact that it's not just Bobby Clarke saying, "Hey, you're my boy, you got a job." Like he's worked his way up, and everything he's doing so far, he has a plan, and he's not veering from the plan too much. I know it may have been escalated or rushed maybe a year or two because of Mishkov being able to come up soon or come over sooner. But I like what he's doing, man. He's sticking to a plan. I still think they're about a year or two away from being a year or two away. But I think the future is bright. And I told you this last year. I'm telling you again, hop on the Flyers bandwagon. The other story from the Flyers is Tyson Forrester had surgery on his elbow to treat an infection from an injury he sustained playing for Team Canada. Kind of a mixed bag on whether he'll be ready for the training camp in the start of the season. But that certainly could be a huge blow for the Flyers. But he should be fine. He just might miss the start of the season. And then on the other side of the winter sports circle, the Sixers were not very active. They did sign Trendon Watford, and he's a power forward, small forward, hybrid type player. Played 2 years in Portland, 2 years in Brooklyn. Signed him to a 2 year deal. He does provide sort of a need now that Gershon Yabusele signed with the Knicks. But I don't know. This isn't like I'm doing backflips over. He's a playmaker who can score. He can handle the ball. I'm not sure what his shooting is because he hasn't really had to shoot much either stop he has played in the NBA. But he's not a great defender, which is the opposite of some of the moves that they've been making here. So we'll see. He's good friends with Tyrese Maxey, which, if you read the tea leaves, this is switching over slowly from being Joe's team to Tyrese's team. But I mean, I guess if Tyrese likes him, it's his team, so we'll see what happens. It's not like a needle mover for me, but it fills a need. I mean, I'm not happy they lost Yabusele. I really liked him. I would have liked to have seen him get another run here, but oh, the Knicks though, the stinking Knicks. All right, we did the housekeeping. I went over programming, um, but let's recap yesterday's trivia question. We did in honor of Chuck Klein hitting for the cycle. He did it 2 times in his Major League Baseball career. It happened for the Phillies 10 times. 2 of them were Chuck Klein. Who were the other Phillies to hit for the cycle? Lav Cross, Cy Williams, Sam Thompson, Johnny Callison, Greg Jeffries, David Bell, JT Realmuto, and Weston Wilson did it last August. So thank you to everybody who reached out and answered the trivia question. Go to the Discord channel. First link in the description if you want to answer today's. But those are the names of the Phillies who have hit for the cycle. Packing up the whole crew for a week down the shore? Don't waste your first day dragging bags and beach chairs. Let Beach Caddy do the work. With bellhop service for move-ins and move-outs, plus beach cart rentals in Ocean City, Avalon, Sea Isle, Stone Harbor, and Wildwood, they've got your back from driveway to dune. Stress less, relax more. Book now at beachcaddy.app. Use the promo code Jimbo for 10% off your bellhop or cart rental services. Beach Caddy, because vacation should start when you get there. Best beach carts on the Jersey Shore. Book now at beachcaddy.app. Use the promo code Jimbo for 10% off your order and let Beach Caddy take the stress out of your vacation. All right, we already mentioned the 93 doubleheader against the Padres that ended at 441. Doesn't look like that's going to happen today. I don't believe that there's enough rain in the forecast to make it extend that long. But that wasn't the only event that happened in Phillies history on this day. And we'll go back to 2004 for this one. Another long game. In this one, though, the Phillies lost to the Orioles 7-6 in 16 innings. The Phillies, though, set a team and a National League record with 18 walks. Yes, the Orioles walked the Phillies 18 times. Could you imagine this current iteration of the Phillies walking 8 times in a game, let alone 18? Jimmy Rollins and Bobby Abreu each walked 4 times. The National League record was then tied by the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2013 against your Philadelphia Phillies. All right, today's trivia question. And like I said, be sure to go to the Discord. Let's have some fun talking about this. But going back to the 93 Phillies, that season was just a special, magical season. The Phillies were 500 or better against every team in the National League that year, with the exception of 2. Which 2 teams did the Phillies have losing records against in 1993? Hit me up on the Discord. Call or text me on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Get that. Anything else Phillies sports? Want to talk Sixers, Flyers, free agency? Want to talk Mitchie Poo for that matter? All of that is fair game. All right, today is Wednesday, and every Wednesday we do What If Wednesday. That is brought to you by Lotwin. Go to lotwin.com, get your 3D custom hype chain. These things are amazing, great for any type of event. Fantasy football season is coming, bachelor parties, youth sports, a lot of travel tournaments happening right now. Go to Lotwin, get your custom hype chain, and use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off of your order. All right, on this day, back in 1999, Scott Rowland hit 2 homers in a game for the Phillies in a 14-1 win against the Cubs, including an inside the park home run. And it got me thinking, and this is one of the biggest what ifs I think in Phillies history anyway, is he was obviously unhappy because they weren't spending money, but what if they would have made it work with Scott Rowland? What if he could have seen the long-term vision that Ed Wade had with guys like Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Brett Myers, those guys coming up through Cole Hamels, coming up through the Philly system. So what, just kind of talk about and look at what if Scott Rowland had stayed. Obviously, they would have had to spend, which they were prepared to do if Rowland was a little bit more patient. Once the new stadium opened up, they went out and paid for Jim Thome to come in as a free agent. But if you think about it, they could have had before the golden era, the Rollins, Utley, Howard team. They could have had a trio of Jim Thome, Scott Rowland, and Bobby Abreu. Two surefire Hall of Famers. Another one who has a Hall of Fame case. I know a lot of people aren't fans of him, but Bobby Abreu, yeah, you put those three together, all of a sudden that outlook of those early 2000 teams certainly looks different. I went through, kind of looked at some of the standings, and they probably still missed the playoffs in 2002. 2003, they finished 5 games back of the wild card. Scott Rowland on that team, you don't think he could have made up 5 games? I didn't get into war and just kind of did the eye test here. 2004, they had a shot. They were 6 games back of the wild card, 10 out of the division. So maybe they make the wild card there. 2005, though, absolutely. They finished 1 game back of the wild card, 2 games back of the division. You had Ryan Howard come up at the end of the season. Could you imagine two corner infielders of Scott Rowland and Ryan Howard? Rookie of the year, Ryan Howard. Former rookie of the year, Scott Rowland. I mean, I think 2005 could have been a year. 2006, they were 3 games back in the wild card. Probably weren't going to catch the Mets for the division, but who knows? Maybe they keep Abreu. Maybe you don't have Jason Worth or one of those guys that come in. But third base in 2007, then that's kind of was a weak spot. That's when they went out and got Pedro Feliz in 2008. But you don't have to worry about it. So maybe they have a better shot to move on in 2007. But I think from 2005 to 2007 with Scott Rowland, this team looks completely different. And maybe they make the postseason sooner with that core. Maybe it helps their development out. Maybe his leadership helps to guide them past the Rockies in 2007. You never know, but like that 2002 to 2007, but specifically the 05 to 07, that was Scott Rowland's prime years. So you throw a Hall of Fame third baseman in their prime years with a young core that was already coming up, and then you had guys like Abreu. Maybe this team looks different. I think, like I said, that 04, 05 through 07 certainly looks different with Scott Rowland. The 2008 World Series team looks different with Scott Rowland nearing the end of his career over Pedro Feliz. And I like Pedro Feliz. I'm not knocking Pedro Feliz, but Scott Rowland's a Hall of Famer. It certainly changes his legacy with the Phillies if he stayed. Maybe it's all for nothing. Who knows? What are your thoughts? Let me know what you're thinking. Would it have made a difference for this team? Would it have changed their mindset and their spending? Maybe Citizens Bank Park opens up early. Who knows? But what are your thoughts? What if on What If Wednesday? What if Scott Rowland stayed with the Phillies? As always, that is brought to you by Lotwin. Get your 3D custom hype chains at lotwin.com. All right, finally today, our greatest individual season in Philly sports history. Yesterday, excuse me, it was Mike Schmidt, number 1 seed from 2000 or from 1980, beating Dick Allen, the number 8 seed from 1966 with 95% of the vote. Schmitty from 1980, MVP, World Series MVP, moves on to face Roy Halladay from 2010. Today we go for a Flyers region and a date with the number 1 overall seed, Mark Recchi. We have number 4, Eric Lindros from 94-95. It was a lockout shortened season, but Eric Lindros put up 70 points in 46 games, 29 goals, 41 assists, had a plus minus of 27. He was the Hart and the Pearson Trophy winner, all NHL, and helped, more importantly, lead the Flyers to their first playoff appearance since 1989. Made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals before bowing out to the Devils. During that playoff run, had 15 points. Certainly had a tremendous season, getting Flyers fans excited. But that's our number 4 seed, taking on his mentor slash nemesis, Bobby Clarke from 1975-76. Clarke was the Hart Trophy winner, scored 119 points, 89 assists that season, had an amazing plus minus of 83. Flyers did lose to the Cup that to the Canadians in the Stanley Cup Finals that year, but Bobby Clarke added 14 assists during that playoff run. So who do you got? Eric Lindros from 94-95, Bobby Clarke from 75-76. Get your votes in. Call or text me, social media, Discord channel, whatever you got. Get those votes in. Also, I want to give a shout out to our partner, Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Check out everything they have on their website. They got you covered for Phillies sports, Philly themed apparel and accessories, and use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right. On this day back in 2004, Phillies set a National League and a team record for walks in a game with 18 and a loss to the Orioles. But the big story is 1993, Phillies Padres doubleheader did not end until 4:41 a.m. They're playing two today, same two teams. I don't think it's going to go that late. At least I hope not. We'll have more on the Flyers and Sixers as they go through day 2 of free agency. Hopefully, we do get 2 games in today, but I did check the weather. It doesn't look like there's going to be a ton of rain. Remember, we will be a little bit later tomorrow. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 2nd, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.